We just had round 1 of FNCS and it did not disappoint. We had Clix and Veno win it on NA and set a world record for elims, a huge first performance for the brand new duo. We also just had EU dominate NA across the board after all the imports have come over to the region. We also have huge content creators like SypherPK and Typical Gamer throwing their hats in the ring and doing really well. I also want to talk about what's going on with the new update, why have the crossbows been vaulted, and are they bringing the Nitro fist back, or are they just out for the entire season? So there's a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Just quickly before we jump in the rest of today's video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to today's sponsor, Star Wars Hunters, a free-to-play 4v4 third-person combat game, and it is awesome. Just look at all the different characters you can choose to play from across the Star Wars galaxy. Anything from Wookiees and bounty hunters to Imperial stormtroopers, each with their own unique weapons and abilities to match your playstyle. Take Reeve, for example, my favorite character so far. She wields a lightsaber and uses the Force to stun her enemies before pulling them towards her and dealing massive damage. Whether you want to be a tank, a support, or my favorite, the damage dealers, there will be a character that matches your playstyle. You are going to have to mix up your playstyle and strategies if you want to win, as there is a whole bunch of different game modes with even more coming soon, each offering a unique and fun experience. Join now and become a top dominator in the arena. Download the game using my link in the description down below or scan the QR code on the screen. Good luck. Just quickly, before we get into talking about Clix winning and SypherPK calling and all the craziness, I just want to talk about what happened in the most recent update and how it's now affecting FNCS, because I didn't get to make a video on that yesterday, and I was hoping we were going to get some massive changes. People were hoping for the gloves to come back, maybe a Nitro nerf, maybe some fixes, but we kind of didn't really get that. So the main change we got for competitive Fortnite now is the fact that Crossbow has been vaulted. There are no crossbows in competitive Fortnite anymore, which is obviously a massive nerf to teams like Kanata and Cooper, like Chap and Teeny, who are dropping Nitro Drone because they were getting the crossbow with the infinite ammo medallion. The crossbow itself wasn't a problem. I don't think anyone's picked up the crossbow and been like, man, this weapon is so broken, it needs to get vaulted, especially when you compare it to items like the Nitro and like the Nitro Fist. It just wasn't that broken. But when you had infinite ammo, it was absurd. I know if you guys most have been playing pubs or ranked or maybe like lower level tournaments, you maybe didn't face just how annoying it was, but in high level stacked games, the teams that had the crossbow, I think so far, at least in the tournaments I've watched on EU and NA, have won like 50% of the set lobby games. So it's pretty much up there with Grim Gate of just once you get it, your chance of winning goes up so much. Obviously Chap and Teeny, you know, Kanata and Cooper knew this. Now that the crossbow is out of the game, we've actually had Chap and Teeny leave their drop spot. They won the first 2 duo cash cups in a row, and because the crossbow is now gone, they're like, no, Nitro Drone is not a good spot anymore, we're leaving. And now they've left to go and contest Sato and Enderlex at Brutal Beachhead. That's how much they think the drop isn't worth it anymore. Meanwhile, Kanata and Cooper will still be dropping there, but obviously they were quite upset. You have to remember last season, Kanata and Cooper's drop spot, the yacht, literally sailed off into the sunset right before FNCS. That's twice now this duo has been hit with major changes right before FNCS. It's unfortunate, but a lot of people are happy to see this change because going up against the Mythic Crossbow was just so frustrating. Now, a lot of the other changes people were hoping for, the Nitro to be nerfed, it kind of did, but not really. They've reduced the explosion radius when you run into walls with the Nitro. So when you run into someone's front wall now in a box, it won't break their back wall, which is a little bit of a nerf. But I think the main reason why they did this is because there was a pretty cool trick you could do where you could break the wall in your box and then take the opponent's wall on the other side of the box. It was really broken. A lot of people are abusing it. So I think that's why they made this change. People have now learned that you can do this just with a stair in the box. If you edit half a stair and you run into it, it'll literally break the wall and you can just take it safely. Shout out Coach Harry. That's the first place where I saw this. So that didn't really fix that either. Now, another thing they didn't fix, unfortunately, they did not fix the Nitro Fist. They are not back in the game, which means we are stuck in a Nitro only meta. Now, the first duo cash cups we watched with Nitro only meta was pretty miserable. I'm not gonna lie, just having people sprint Nitro through the box, no one's building, it just felt way too goofy, and I think a lot of players were very frustrated. I did say this was gonna happen if the Nitro Fist ever got vaulted because everyone's gonna pick up the Nitro and realize how strong it is. I still think we can have a fantastic meta. I really do hope they fix the gloves and bring them back into the game. All they have to do is maybe reduce the player damage a little bit more on the gloves themselves and they will be an awesome item. And obviously they now need to nerf Nitro a little bit. I think 300 structure damage on the Nitro is a little bit much. Also, maybe add a bit of a delay once you slam through walls before you can pull your gun out. It would still make the Nitro a relevant, fun item. It is still a super OP pepper with infinite sprint, no fall damage, and you run faster. Like, even without the structure damage, it's still a great item. So I think we just need to bring that structure damage down a little bit so it's a skillful but yet still fun item. But I do hope the fists are coming back, but they still haven't fixed the bug for the infinite flying, so they haven't been added back into the game. I think their intention is to fix them and bring them back, but if you saw anything with this Metallica update, so much of the game broke. You literally couldn't even step foot in the desert biome without crashing on PC. So I think the extra bugs they've added with the Metallica update have taken their focus away from fixing the gloves. So there's a good chance they will be back for next week's FNCS, but then a lot of people are frustrated by that. Why are we playing only 2 weeks of qualifiers for FNCS and one of them is on an entirely different meta? Outside of this, nothing else in the Metallica update actually made into competitive. There is no Ride the Lightning guitar. Thankfully, that would have been absurd. The Metallica Rift Island isn't in either, so really it didn't change anything except adding EMPs, which outside of just using them on fishing holes, didn't really have an effect at all. All right, let's talk about who dominated in FNCS. Now, basically, as far as who didn't qualify, there's really not that many notable names, I think, on EU or NA that I could see didn't qualify. Like, all the huge names that were playing, I saw Cipher PK and Asian Jeff get across the line. Typical Gamer picked up things with Ranger, they qualified. Obviously, all the big name pros qualified. Clicks and Veno, Taste and Yomzo, all of the EU players that came over to NA, they all made it through. Alex and Worthy from OCE. So as far as me talking about them today, I'm just going to talk about the really big names that I think did extremely well. But as far as who didn't qual, it's been a really good week of FNCS, at least for round one. So looking at the NA leaderboard, we had Clicks and Veno get 595 points. First place for the brand new duo, who a lot of people were already starting to smack talk, saying they weren't doing too well after a couple of, up and down performances in the tournament so far. Now, I have to mention, they did this on the back of 2 50+ elim games. Well, sorry, almost 50+. They got a 46 elim win in their first game and then dropped a 52 elim win mid-tournament, which is a world record, by the way. So if you want to watch that whole game at the end of this video, I actually have a react video out on it right now. I don't know what happened. I think skill-based matchmaking broke because they went in second place on over 300 points and they were queued against people on like 120 points, which should never happen. Once they realized they somehow got into a lobby of mostly non-pros, they just ran through it and absolutely decimated it. So I will still give them full credit for winning this tournament. They played amazing, but that game was extremely, extremely odd. Now, as far as why this team's doing so much better all of a sudden, again, Veno has been quite sick for a while now. He actually had the flu when he was living with Clicks. Clicks started to get a little bit sick, but I don't even know if that was a factor of it. I just feel like watching them today, you had Veno IGLing and leading Clicks and telling him what to do, and Clicks was listening, but I feel like Clicks today kind of got out of his own head a little bit and didn't second guess everything he was doing, and he kind of just played like Clicks, and they looked phenomenal. This duo looked like they could actually win Clicks' first FNCS. It's only opens. We'll have to see how they go in set lobbies, but dropping Sandy Steps, having a tower, a forecast tower that has an 80% spawn rate is looking absolutely phenomenal for this duo. Now, the other two teams on the leaderboard, you'll probably notice Blaha and Mixon, one of the two double EU duos that went over to NA along with Mongrel and Savage, getting second on 534, and Taste and Yomzo in third on 506. So the EU fans are very happy right now because that means only 2 of the top 6 players in this tournament are from NA. Now, I've been watching NA. I'm not biased towards either region. If anything, I'd probably swing more towards being biased for NA, but the EU guys have shown up and they're doing extremely well so far. So all 3 of them doing excellent. We had Ritual and Reed, again, another already land qualified team in 4th on 484, and then Oliver OG and Craze. Now, if OG does well with Craze, I feel like the community finally has to give him the respect he deserves. A lot of times people thinking Oliver OG is a bit of a meme, and a lot of people saying Jeff carried him, then he split with Jeff, did really well with Larson, then Larson dropped him. He's now picked up an extremely underrated player and doing phenomenally well with him. So I'm really excited to see OG keep up this dominance. Muzz and Trashy, again, another brand new duo doing really, really well. Now, obviously the big name, how did Mr. Savage and Mongrel do in their first FNCS games on NA? The answer is extremely well. They're in 16th place, 421 points, almost breaking the top 15 in their first FNCS on NA. And if you've been watching Savage and Mongrel, their vibes have just been amazing. I don't know if it's living together or they're just really enjoying the season. I do think Mongrel is honestly improving so much right now. And I know people have talked about Mongrel a lot in the past, and I've also talked a lot of hope about Mongrel kind of getting back to his prime and performing really well. But I feel like in my videos, I've been honest with you guys. I've told you that, yeah, I think they can make grands, but I don't think they'll do very well when they get there. Right now, Mongrel is looking really solid. He is one of the most improved players I have seen in a while. He did a whole bunch of 1v1 rounds against Muzz today. I think it was like 70 rounds or something. Muzz came into my stream and was like, he has improved so much. Then we saw him 1v1 in Clicks. Clicks was complimenting him, saying how much better he's got. He's been doing a whole bunch of Zone Wars tokens with Mr. Savage at night against players like Veno, like Pink, Clicks, Bucky, all those guys when they're running their Zone Wars. And I think it's really, really helping him, and they're performing really well. In between the breaks of games, they're playing football in their living room, which Mongrel almost broke his setup by having the football fall on the desk, but it's just fun. And honestly, I think the move to NA is looking extremely good for them. Another team inside the top 100, Asian Jeff and Cipher PK. When this duo first announced, I thought surely it was Asian Jeff just trolling for content, but no. Asian Jeff and Cipher PK is a real duo, and not only are they a real duo, Cipher PK is so committed to playing FNCS this season and taking it seriously, he turned down tickets to go and see the finals games of NBA to play FNCS with Jeff. And if you've watched, again, Jeff or PK streams, you know why they're doing so well. It's because Asian Jeff finally stopped trolling, at least for the most part. I mean, in the last game when they finally had officially qualified, Jeff started to let it out a little bit, but compared to watching Asian Jeff when he's playing with Oliver OG or basically anyone else, he looks like a different player with Cipher PK, and they're looking really solid. A top 100 finish is awesome. I think this team can easily make semifinals. I think once they're in semifinals, they're going to have to kind of fix up maybe some of the finer parts of their set lobby gameplay. Again, Cipher PK hasn't played many set lobbies outside of some scrims, so it'll be very interesting to see how this duo does. But for a first FNCS together, I think they're looking exceptional. And again, the content they're making is awesome. The amount of eyes that Cipher PK brings to competitive is just great to see. So I'm excited to see how this duo does, and I really hope they at least make it to semis, but I do think they could make grands if they pull it off. Now, moving on over to EU, I know EU's lost a little bit of its hype this season with a lot of the big names going over and playing on NA, but it's still very exciting, and we're still going to see 10 teams make it to LAN at the end of this, which is always huge when you have the caliber of some of the teams that haven't yet qualified on EU. We had a new duo come out in first with Yanis and Pixie. Obviously, Yanis, previous FNCS winner, phenomenal player, playing alongside Pixie, finishing on 504 points. Then we had Akira's duo in second. Again, Akira, you might know, legendary console player, now on PC, doing extremely well after the switch. We had Voltiax and Cool, a very underrated duo, in third. Then we had Cringe and Jake Buka and Skyjump and Lyzen. So quite a few French players doing quite well. And as far as the French go, we have exciting news. Swizzy and Vanyak have also joined the French org Gentle Mates, which from a viewing perspective is extremely exciting because Nikoff does all the watch parties for the Gentle Mates org, and now they've signed Swizzy and Vanyak. We get to see their gameplay for every single tournament, which has been very, very fun to follow. Like I said, Chap and Teeny being one of the clear favorites to win this FNCS after insane second place last season. Now switching drop spots is going to shake things up a little bit. I'm interested to see whether they can actually alpha that drop spot, whether they can get Sato and Andalex to leave, because they are a very good team as well. But if they can lock down Brutal Beachhead, they are going to be one of the favorites to win FNCS, which would mean that you have, you know, Chap and Teeny, Chap's first ever FNCS last season being a second, and then a potentially first this season. It would be ridiculous to see, so I'm excited to see how EU breaks down. Thank you again to Star Wars Hunters for sponsoring today's video. If you want to check it out, download it for free by clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on the screen.